lot of the areas where we kind of trimmed away from was those covered porches on the exteriors, were really, yeah, they look great, but really they're going to add, some cost to the home, but not really a necessity. And especially looking at the property of that original Timberlake, some of those covered porches were necessary to kind of get from the driveway to that front porch. So it wasn't really a necessity on this home. We eliminated some of those covered porches and was able to bring that overall cost down without, again, losing a lot of that look of the home.
I don't feel like they lost a lot of the curb appeal. I think that the front porch still is a wow factor when you see that video in that home.
Mm-hmm, definitely.
So here's a good example, taking a look at the covered porch on the back side of the home. So when you talk design square footage, we're not talking the heated livable space. You're talking the overall footprint of the home, porches, decks, garages.
Yep.
So this is a great example. We can clearly see that the original Timberlake, that's going to be a pretty expensive structure right there. You've got mortise and tenon timber trusses. That's a huge overhang, really nice living space. But clearly, we've been able to save quite a bit of cost by eliminating that on this new Michigan home.
Exactly. And that truss on the original Timberlake is structural. So it is going to add additional cost to the home because we got to make sure that's structurally sound. It doesn't take a whole lot from the look of that home. Some people prefer not to have the covered porch on their home, kind of open that space up, open their view up a little bit on the backside.
It also would bring in quite a bit more light. Mm-hmm. That's something to consider.
Definitely. Yep. Yeah, some people feel that it may break up their view a little bit with the railing. Some people just want, an uninterrupted view of their lake, mountain, river, whatever it may be. So
again, it's all about what budget do you want to maintain and how are you going to use the home, and the fact that Golden Eagle designed the house around those different criteria.
Definitely.
Mm-hmm. John, you were pointing out the big contrast in stone between the two homes. We were talking about this off screen earlier, and there's just so much less stone used on this newer version of the home. That's got quite a bit of cost savings right there, doesn't it?
Yeah, material and install, just labor, you save a lot of money. But they still did a great job with the use of the stone that they did use.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I love the symmetry that we've got with those windows. They're the same, overall the same width as what's upstairs on that primary main level. So that brings a really good cohesion of the lower level and that upper level space.
Definitely.
Speaking of the windows, I like the Impervia slide casements.
Yeah, wasn't that great?
Mm-hmm. That was a nice feature.
Yeah.
Yeah, that was so slick. It was just whisper quiet as well, and a lot easier. It makes it kind of feel nothing against the crank. I've got the crank in my own home,
too,
and it works. It's awesome, but that slide hinge or slide crank is what they call it. It does cost a little bit more, so that's something to keep in mind. It's not too substantial. Lucas ran some numbers on that the other day, right? Yep. So we're probably under $1,000 on the whole home,
right?
For something like that. Does that sound about right?
Yeah, right. Yep. Yeah, it just kind of cleans that window up too. You don't have the crank there. Makes a nice sleek look from the inside.
Mm-hmm. Talking about the windows, do you remember roughly how tall those basement windows were? Because when you walked around the back of the house and you're standing next to them, they just looked massive.
Yeah. They were. Boy, I don't know. We must be around 7 feet at the header height.
Yeah. And speaking of header height, we got to talk about the wall height too. The wall height in the original Timberlake was 10 foot tall. On the Michigan Timberlake, it's 8 foot tall. And I don't think when you were there, Zach, you made mention to that you really didn't even notice that it was shorter than the original one.
Very few flat ceilings on that first floor. Mm-hmm. Yeah, everything vaults up. So yeah, you don't even notice.
Right. Yeah, exactly. The only portion that wall height is 8 foot is right at the corner, and it's only for a moment, and then it reaches up at a 10-12 slope. Very, very steep roof pitches on the inside as well.
Luke made an incredible observation when we were out there. When you take a look at the band board that transitions from the wall to ceiling finish, it projects out of the wall, so it's proud of the wall, and then it, obviously meets the ceiling. It gives the illusion that it's an even taller space because of, it being extended away from the wall a bit more.
So it brings that out. Yeah, it brings that surface out a little bit, reaches up a few inches taller. Further you come out, obviously, the taller the wall gets, right?
Yeah. A pretty cool effect. Mm. One thing I wanted to circle back with that Pella mechanism on the slide hinge is you do lose then the wash hinge. So the perk of having that crank on a casement through Pella is it pivots the window, the sash out about 5 inches, and then you can reach your arm behind the sash and clean the window that way. That can be really beneficial if you don't have a deck on the other side of that window. So it prevents you from having to get a ladder.
Oh, for
That's
sure.
Pella's wash hinge.
Yeah.
That's our standard mechanism there, as opposed to this slide hinge. So something for clients to keep in mind if they're interested in this slide hinge. Additionally, the slide hinge is exclusive to Pella's Impervia line, their fiberglass window series.
Okay.
Yeah.
I mean, speaking of windows and in the exterior still, you know, some of the things we did remove from the exterior on the Michigan Timberlake, which I don't think affected, you know, the overall look, was some of those gables, some inverted valleys on the inside of that original Timberlake. I don't think that was a huge loss in the Michigan Timberlake. Yeah, we did lose some windows. Maybe they're not as tall, but still a great effect. Still a great look from the exterior on that Michigan.
You're talking like in the bedrooms, right?
Yeah,
Where they had the
master
inverted valleys.
bedroom, master bath, the second bedroom, I think.
Yeah, it's really sharp.
And talking about the trusses on the inside, then that's a question we get asked all the time: is what's the big difference between like an exposed beam or an ultra custom timber? This home did an excellent job, you know, displaying kind of a standard exposed beam truss as opposed to the Morrison Tennant ultra custom trusses. You know, you can definitely interchange them throughout different homes, but this house really displayed those really well.
Yeah, I mean, when you see those pictures side by side, you know, of the interior looking at the kitchen and the great room dining room, that picture, boy, it's hard to tell which is which. I thought I was looking at the original Timberlake when we first brought those pictures up. They did a great job of emulating that original Timberlake, and like we keep saying, you didn't lose a lot. But yeah, the exposed beam home is a spectacular package specifications. I mean, you lose nothing when you start with that package. You see those, you know, those trusses that we have. They look spectacular. They're maybe a little bit more simplified, yes, but some people like that. Some people don't like the ornateness of some of those barrel trusses. You know, this is a more traditional look with the trusses. Some of the other things are, you know, some of the trim work in the home. They're 2x6 trim, still hand hewn in this home. Still way larger than most people think of the trim work on the inside. I'm talking the base and case around the doors and windows. I mean, most people are used to a 2-3 inch base and case in their homes. This is a massive 2x6, and it's hand hewn.
Oh, yeah.
You know,
Right.
Pretty spectacular. Yeah.